I guess that's close enough to 4 to call it a thing.
Wait a couple seconds.
Okay, nitpicker.
Shelly might show up.
That's true.
Okay. You're probably good.
Thanks. We call to order the Monday, April 27th, 2026 Manistee City Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. We have a couple of variances on the agenda today. I call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to take roll, please.
Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Dilworth,
Here.
Vice Chair Dufresne,
Here.
and Chair Spalding.
Speaking, here, present.
One absence.
And one absence, Board Member, Member 2.
Correct. Next on our agenda is the election of officers. Are there any nominations? In what order do you want to take them? Vice chair and then chair, or chair?
Chair. I'll have Jackie take nominations for chair, and then the chair will take nominations for vice chair.
I would nominate Marty for chair.
Support.
That was like water going downhill, wasn't it? Any other nominations?
No.
Not yet. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Clerk can take roll.
Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Dilworth,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dufresne,
Yes.
and Chair Member Spalding.
Yes. And for vice chair, do we have nominations?
I'd like to nominate.
Hold the frame.
Yep.
Any other nominations? We'll close that and they can take the roll call on that.
Okay, Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Dilworth,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dufresne,
Yes.
and Chair Spalding.
Yes. All right, back in the saddle for another year. Approval of the agenda. We had our last meeting.
Oh, secretary to not, elect Jackie as your recording secretary.
We need a nomination. Would you like to nominate our secretary?
Well, technically, I think it's one of us is elected secretary, and then.
And then you'll nominate,
And then we
turn it to
appoint,
Jackie.
what,
I'd
staff.
like to nominate anybody for secretary.
Dan, would you?
Nominate you for secretary.
See, you're too slow.
I would second that.
Take the vote, please.
Okay, Board Member Johnson, Board Member Dilworth,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Dufresne,
Yes.
and Chair Spalding.
Yes.
Nominate Jackie to be the recording secretary.
So moved?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Board Member, and I accept, Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Dilworth,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dufresne,
Yes.
and Chair Spalding.
Yes. Now on to the approval of the agenda. We had a meeting in April 7th of 2025.
Well, this is today's agenda.
Oh, approve, yes, correct. Approval of today's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Go ahead and take the call for that.
Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Dilworth,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dufresne,
Yes.
and Chair Spalding.
Yes. Does any member have any conflicts of interest with anything on the agenda today?
No.
No. No.
Not that I'm aware of. Now, for the third time, we'll try to get the minutes of the last meeting approved. Our last meeting, believe it or not, was April 7th of 2025. That's how active the Zoning Board of Appeals is. So, we have a compilation of the proceedings of that hearing in front of us that we need to approve unless there is modification or correction to it?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second?
Support.
Any discussion?
Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Dilworth,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dufresne,
Yes.
and Chair Spalding.
Yes. We are going to waive the site inspection. Everybody, for purposes of the two variances before us today, has had lots of opportunity on their own to do their own reconnaissance on this and study the issues. Next on our agenda is public hearing. We have two variances proposed before us today for a parcel at 91 Arthur Street in Manistee. Variances to sections 1814, subsection C, paragraph 4, and section 1814, subsection C, paragraph 5. So we have a public hearing that we're going to open. Are we going to open these one at a time, or are we going to open? Okay, well, first we're going to open public hearing on the first of the variances, which is subsection C, paragraph 4. And the variance under consideration is that no billboard will be located within 660 feet of another billboard abutting either side of the same highway, which is US 31. If any member of the public would like to make a comment regarding that variance proposal, we're willing to hear that now. Not seeing any. We'll move on to the public hearing.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Bridget Vanderhoff. I own Wander Inn along with my brother and Harry. I just want to talk a second about this billboard. I don't have a dog in the fight about what this billboard ends up looking like. When I bought this property way back when, I just want to give you a little history about this because we've had some public comments on social media about, didn't you see the billboard? Yes, I saw the billboard. I know it was there. That's not the issue. What we didn't foresee was Wander Inn growing and being as busy as it is. We're to a point now where if we don't do something to expand our dining area down the road, or at least get where we can enclose our patio, we're just running out of space. People are waiting 2-3 hours to get a spot to sit. And it's becoming, an issue for us with, even at Christmas time, having Christmas parties, letting families host events there, which we would like to do because it helps the restaurant stay viable. With this billboard, when I bought it, when it was the old Little Caesars building, when I initially spoke with Lamar, they said, yeah, we'll work with you to get whatever's done, get it moved, whatever. I've never dealt with a billboard before. I didn't have any clue that it had to go to this kind of, extent to try to move a billboard. So fast forward, we're sitting here, we would love to enclose our patio eventually. Can't do that with the billboard there. I'm not even sure that their billboard is where it's supposed to be on our own property. And whether it hangs over, there's some question about that. And I don't really care. What I care about is being able to operate the restaurant and make sure that it's sustainable. And it's not sustainable with people backing out the door, waiting 2 or 3 hours to get a seat. And the other part of this is, I don't care that it says marijuana above it. People have made a comment, oh, it's because it says marijuana. We don't care. They go get their marijuana and come to us for cheese curds. I don't really care. I don't have a dog in that fight either. I don't do marijuana, but I do cheese curds. But the thing is we are willing to give up parking spots, a couple of them, which costs us to get that billboard moved. And the other question that was asked of me is, why did you build the restaurant in that space, knowing the billboard was there? I had to, because it came with an Oprah to be able to build the restaurant there. So it had to be built on the base of the Little Caesars restaurant. Otherwise, I would have put the restaurant on the other end of the property. Couldn't do that because of wetlands. So there was a lot of, discussion around this billboard beforehand, and we just decided to build it. They'll come, we'll see what happens, and so here we are with, this is what happens. And so we are asking to move it, and we are asking to move it Right now, it's 150 feet from a current billboard, so it doesn't meet 660. If we move it, it'll get a lot closer to that number. It will still not meet quite 660, but it'll be way closer to that 660 number. I think it'd be closer to 500, so 480 something. So we are helping get it, you know, closer to not having two big billboards right across from each other. So I guess that's all I have to say, if unless somebody has a question for me about what's happening here.
In the document you filed, you indicated that you have had conversations with Lamar about the move,
Yes, we have.
and they're agreeable, apparently.
They said we have to start with number one, getting you guys agreeable. And then they tried to make me pay for it. So that's where it's going to be a question is like, I'm giving you the property. And so we need to come to terms with who's going to pay for it. I don't mind chipping some in if that's what I have to do to get it out of the roof of my restaurant. But I don't know how that will work. We just need to get step one done.
Is the current billboard, the space itself, the property that it sits on, leased by Lamar?
Yes, it's leased by the Lamar, and I don't own, that was already leased before I bought the property. So it came with a 99-year lease when I bought the property.
All right,
I
so-
was not a recipient of that money to lease to them.
Well, they currently aren't paying you for that lease?
No,
No,
no.
Okay, and I
Who are
didn't
they
understand.
paying?
it's actually an easement. It's
It's
not a
an
lease, and it's perpetual. It's not-
Perpetual easement.
Oh.
Trust me, I tried to get around that every way possible with my attorneys.
As easement, that means it's city property?
No,
No, it belonged to, I think whoever started the Little Caesars way, way long time ago did this easement to them for some silly amount of money. I think it was like $2,000. I mean, it's a really small amount.
it was 22,000,
22,000, okay. so
one-time payment,
One-time payment.
which I'm sure they got back in a couple of years.
Oh, they've multiplied that. I don't love billboards. If it was my city, I would vote them all out of here. I don't love them. And I certainly don't love it above the restaurant, you know, for a multitude of reasons. People do get confused. Are you a Culver's? We've had people come in think we're Culver's, and then they come in asking where the marijuana is. And, you know, so whatever's up above us, that's what they think we are. And I feel like Wander Inn has added a lot to this community. We've put a lot of money into that property. I'm almost $2.5 million into rehabbing that property. Including, you know, redoing the seawall, working with Eagle, beautifying the property from what it was. As you all know, it was really a ramshackle kind of mess down there. And so we're $2.5 million in, and the restaurant is doing well. It's doing very well for a small community, but we really need to seat more people in order to make it long-term sustainable.
Just one other quick question. Are the current folks being advertised on it in any way involved with discussions between you and Lamar? Or will they be concerned about the move?
I don't know. They can rent or not rent, because it's a monthly rental.
It's monthly.
Yeah, it's a monthly rental.
Standing.
They don't have a standing I mean, they're gonna rent whatever, like we rent billboards on the outside of both sides of town.
I've seen them, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so I don't think that has any bearing on it moving or not. As a matter of fact, I think if it moves to where we're talking, I think as you come around that curve, once the new road is done, it will have better visibility. And you won't be looking at sign. You know, when you're driving, your eyes are trying to look at both signs. And if you've got, you know, a sign further away, I think it's safer in some ways, and I think it does look better to not have two signs on top of each other.
Now, will there be any issue around the permanent lease or longstanding lease if the billboard is moved? Will that be impacted in any way?
That might be a discussion outside of what we're here to look at today. I mean, we have two variances in front of us.
Yeah, I see that.
And from my review of this, there's a myriad of tangents here.
Of the issues that could arise.
Well, yeah, and the concern I have is as a board, we would want to at least take those things into consideration to make our agreement or disagreement to a variance workable for the parties involved.
Well, from what
particularly-
I understand, this is me talking to Lamar and their attorney. From what I understand is if you approve for us to move it, the next step that we have is we have to give them an easement to the space where we're going to move it to, which is our property. We can do that. And then they have to release the easement that we have on ours. That would be done simultaneously at one closing. And that would just be a simple easement that
All right.
we file any other way. And that was talking to their attorney today. So we would just swap easement spaces. And it would be same size. It would not be an
So-
increase in size.
The proposed location, to my understanding, is on an adjacent property that was not part of the original Little Caesars property.
That is one piece of property now. I
It is
combined,
now.
yeah, I combined the parcels.
It wasn't in 2006 when the
No.
zoning ordinance was.
No, and they couldn't have gotten, I mean, they couldn't have put the sign there then. I don't know how they ended up with two signs close to each other when the rule is 660 feet and they get it 150 feet. That's kind of, there must have been a variance for that to begin with. Or there wasn't a rule at that time. I don't know.
More than likely, the rule wasn't.
Wasn't in place, yeah. But, yeah, I combined those parcels for a lot of reasons, just to make it easy and make it seamless for a lot of things. So partially being the TIF funding.
So, you have any other comments for us based on the separation issues? We have to have
No.
another hearing on the setback.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the setback thing. Rob, you might have to fill in on that.
Well, as far as
I didn't think we needed a setback, but.
Okay. Well, we do because.
Could you come up and need you to,
Do you want to close the,
are you speaking on this issue or on
I'll
the
speak on the
setback?
setback.
Okay, so if there are any other comments from the public on the spacing issue? Okay, we'll close that public hearing and open another one regarding subsection C, paragraph 5, about the setback in Article 18, Standards and Requirements for Special Uses, or side yard setbacks for other billboard applications.
Well, from my understanding from
Need your name and address.
Rob Vanderhoff from Wander Inn. I spoke with DTW, Maddie was down there with us. We know the water line runs close to where we wanted to put it. Worked with him, we marked a 10-foot setback from the water line, I think it was 10 feet, 10 or 12 feet, somewhere in that vicinity, and he said that would be fine with them, as long as it was that distance back. It is set back from the Milwaukee property as well, because their property line is close to where we wanted to put it on that last parking spot. So I'm not exactly sure on what that distance is, because we would have to look at a plat map to exactly see what that setback would be. But I don't know what the city setback is on the property line for something like that.
on the side?
Yeah,
10, probably?
yeah, we're well over, where we wanted to put it,
Okay, I have a question.
okay?
The setback math, I assume that you're kind of addressing setback from where the post is placed.
Yes,
So on top of the post, you have the actual billboard, which can be moved all the way to one side, all the way to the other side, or it can be right in the middle of the post.
yes,
And we have to consider setback from the
From
two
the-
furthest points,
okay, from
depending
the,
on where they are. So which way is it, is the sign gonna be straight up on the post? Or is it gonna hang all, because I think right now you have, it's kind of considered a flag sign.
yeah, it's hanging this way, and that's the way Lamar would like to continue it,
So we have to measure from that side of the sign.
okay?
Where, do you know how wide the sign is?
No, I do not know that, because it's got a V on it,
Do we
so
have
V's out, and
measurement in
Don't have a-
I don't
application?
have a measurement.
R did not give me that information.
If I might, there hasn't been any application to actually move yet. We're talking about a variance before an application to locate that would take place. And such an application would have to be reviewed by the
Yeah,
city.
we would look at the dimensions.
Right.
Right,
And
'cause
we're all aware that that's your job, and you'll do that. What you're asking for now is sort of a preemptive agreement that we would allow the variance
Yes.
for that setback. All right.
Okay, because I noticed in the application for the variance that it says 240 square feet, which kind of seems like maybe 10 by 24 or something.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I interject?
Sure.
The board needs to approve a specific variance. So you need to approve a variance of, for example, 10 feet or 5 feet or 15 feet. You can't approve a general variance from your setback requirements.
Okay,
So it's a little bit tricky since we're not certain what specific variance is being requested.
all right.
Would it be reasonable then to ask them to come back when the plan and application for that takes place so that we can actually make a variance that is in agreement with what the city needs?
I think we could make a variance that they have to work within based on what the final, they would have to know that their final plan, that the furthest outside measurement of the sign has to meet that requirement. Would that be correct?
Sir, if the applicant can select a variance that they would find acceptable, the board can approve that, but you have to approve a specific variance.
Okay,
And that was my sense that we may be just a little premature for that particular variance because we don't have a plan, you don't have a plan, and we can't describe
No.
exactly what is expected. Although I suppose we could, we're empowered to require certain specific things happen, but we don't have the information to make that, that detailed of a request at this point.
My question would be, what's wrong with the current requirement? Not, located no closer than required front yard setback. Is there a problem with that?
No?
You're requesting a change to that?
No.
No, I don't think we deal with it then. You just have to follow.
Yeah. That was kind of what I'm just sitting here thinking. I'm thinking, we already have those setbacks in place. As long as we follow those and we continue on,
well, what you're proposing is relocating it.
relocating the
with a
sign.
different setback.
Yes. It would have, well, whatever the same setback is for whatever,
Honor that.
honor that setback.
So
That's where it would be,
closer than existing.
existing.
Well, unless that's at variance, just like it's at variance from the current
Yeah.
requirement for proximity to the closest sign.
Yeah,
I would say our agreement I would recommend it be honor the current requirement. However, this gets replaced, except for obviously distance, because that sounds to me like that's the one variance.
yes.
Do we know if it encroaches in the setback at present?
No, I mean, the applicant can withdraw its request for a variance. If you're complying with the zoning ordinance setback standards, you don't need a variance for setback.
Exactly.
So the applicant can withdraw their variance request on the record.
Okay, we'll withdraw.
So now we're down to spacing.
Yep.
Do we need any formal acceptance of that being withdrawn at the meeting or just stating it on the record?
That was sufficient, it was stated on the record.
Okay. So
So
now,
then we're only dealing
now there's one.
With
with
the
section 1814 subsection C,
CA, C4.
C4. All right.
All right, so that public hearing is now closed and to some degree a moot point. So we can strike from our agenda
Item 2.
item number, business session item 2, which is the variance from section 1814C 5. In order for us to entertain consideration of a variance, the ordinance is pretty clear that there are 8 things, 8 steps, 8 conditions that we have to find by majority vote have been achieved. If you fail those, we're not really even allowed to give you the variance. So I will go through really quickly what those 8 items are, and then we're going to have our own little discussion here. And if we need clarification, I think we're allowed to come to you and ask for it. So we will start by outlining what those 8 conditions are.
Got it right on the screen for you.
Oh, how about that? Technology. So we have to find, first of all, that the requested variance is not contrary to the public interest or to the intent and purpose of the ordinance. We have to determine that the variance does not establish a use that is not permitted already by right or by special use in that zoning district. You're in the waterfront zoning district, which is not part of the C1 district. The requested variance does not create an adverse effect upon properties within the immediate vicinity or in that district. The variance is not of recurrent nature. It's not something that is so common that it should be addressed by the ordinance itself. The requested variance is for property that is under your control. The requested variance was not self-created by you or by another party related to your ownership of the property. There's not an alternative solution here that would allow you to make your improvements without the variance. And finally, that the requested variance is the minimum amount necessary to still allow you the reasonable use of your land. So we have to find that all 8 of those conditions exist. And if they don't, or if they do, we also have to consider some other requirements here. If we can satisfy all 8 of those, then we can grant you the variance if either one of 2 other things occurs. One of which is that there are practical difficulties which prevent you from full compliance with the ordinance. And there are some terms for us to use in evaluating that for particular parcels of land, and that where there are exceptional uses or circumstances or physical conditions, that they do not generally apply to other property in your district. They're somewhat unique to your piece of land. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to go down our list of the 8 basic conditions that we're required to find in your favor in order for us to even have the ability to grant the variance. I've kind of looked through these myself, and some of them are givens. Some of them are things that I think you easily can assert, apply to your position. Other ones, we may have to have discussion here and do our own little interpretation. The first one is that the requested variance shall not be contrary to the public interest or to the intent and purpose of the ordinance. I'm a little bit in a gray area on that one myself. There are references in the ordinance pretty specifically regarding billboards. And with this one, obviously, because of the variance request, one of them is spacing. There's also another discussion about the number of billboards that are permitted in the city. And I think there could be some limited conflict there depending on whether this is considered an existing or a modified or relocated or new billboard if another one is put up. And I realize there's a discussion about canceling and creating easements at the same time. It's a little complicated. It's not quite that simple. But I'm a little bit in the black on that one. Does anybody else have any comments on the first?
Where are these listed? While we talk these, because like you mentioned, there's a little gray on this one. I'd just like to be looking at the wording of
You're
it.
looking for, this is the same thing that's in the book.
Okay.
I just took all the other pages out.
Yep, and you were referring to what piece of this?
Well, under section 1814 billboards,
Basic conditions.
Okay,
B-
basic conditions.
B, section B
Contrary to the
describes the
public interest
content, the intent. And I'm Again, I read those closely. They're plain English language reasons for why this section was written, and none of them is, at this point, in my opinion, beyond what would cause us not to continue to consider this variance. I don't think the intent is such that it would prevent us from reasonably discussing the rest of these issues so that we can get to the point where we agree on a possible variance.
I agree to some degree that this is kind of an on-the-fence one.
Yep.
The second one is that the variance would not permit the establishment within this district of any use which is not permitted by right, or any use or dimensional variance for which a special land use permit is required. First, it is worthy of note that in this district, which is the waterfront district, billboards are not permitted by special land use permit. That's correct? So we also, though, do need to consider the fact that the B paragraph here refers to it as being permitting the establishment. And this is, to some degree, not permitting the establishment, it's continuing an existing use. So in and of itself, I think that you're fairly okay on section B as well. Any other discussion on that? Concurrence? Disagreement? Again, though, there's some splitting the hair, though, on whether or not this is considered if relocating the sign is a continuation or whether it is a reestablishment. So that's unclear. C is that the requested variance shall not cause substantial adverse effect upon properties in the immediate vicinity. That is pretty subjective. Do we have any kind of a rule for that? I mean, we had a special hearing, nobody showed up, so nobody's on fire about, moving that billboard's gonna, cause their house to collapse or something, gonna block the sun. So if, in my mind, if there was a substantial adverse effect, we have notified everybody within 200 feet? 300 feet. Here they are, standing in line chanting. So I don't see where that is a deal breaker.
Just a question there. You said that the movement of the sign is towards the Milwaukee, towards the boat, so it's to the north, so to speak.
Yes.
And there's no problem for them?
No, we spoke with Robbie at the ships, he knows for it. He's totally fine. Matter of fact, during ghost ship time, they may want to rent.
Yeah. They're not here to express anything different.
He said no problem.
Just as a point, were we like extremely restrictive in that distance of notice? Did we notice a little farther on either side?
300 is what's required by the ordinance.
Yeah, so we picked right in the middle of the parcel, and then I will say we also notified back in December, the meeting that we ultimately canceled. We did send out notices for that, and the only one person came in asking what it was for, and we didn't hear anything else. We canceled it ultimately and resent letters, but at that time, no one else came forward with any.
There's been no contact, no letters, no phone calls. Subsection D, that the conditions or situations which necessitate you to require or request the variance is not so general or of such recurrent nature. Essentially, this isn't such a common request that it should already be addressed by existing ordinance, by general regulation. Is that an appropriate interpretation of that?
That's spot on.
E, the requested variance shall only relate to property that is under control of the applicant. I think we've established that you own the property. The next three are a little bit more troublesome, in my opinion. F is that the requested variance shall not be necessitated by any self-created condition or action taken by the applicant or the property owner. There is a section of the ordinance which refers kind of specifically to something very similar to what is going on here, and that is Section 401 of the ordinance says that no non-conforming use of the land, which is what this is, shall be moved or in whole or in part to any other portion of the land or to a different parcel not occupied on the effective date of this ordinance, except as provided in the article. So what you're proposing under your variance is kind of is almost directly this. And
Explain that a little bit further.
Um,
Not understanding.
you are requesting, you have two pieces of property that you've made into one. What the ordinance kind of sort of says is that if those weren't together, if they weren't already a piece of property, a single piece of property, actually you've got three, I think, that are merged into one. If you don't have,
Uh-oh.
oh, fun. If those weren't a piece of property when the zoning ordinance was put into place, which was 2006, you can't move a non-conforming use, which is what the sign is, to something other than the piece of property where it was when the ordinance was put. Let me paint a different picture. Let's say that you bought a piece of property that was a 200 by 200 foot lot and it had a multifamily house on it. You can't buy the 20 acres behind it and throw up 100 more houses on it, because that wasn't part of the property when the ordinance was put into place. It would have to meet the current ordinance now, which a billboard there would not. So I'm having a little difficulty getting over that hump. My reading of it would be that if we allowed you to relocate it, it would have to be on somewhere on the property that existed as of 2006.
Or
Which isn't,
or not at all, or removed and comply with.
or
the
removed, which
ordinance.
I think in a perfect world, that sign just disappeared one night, it showed up in the scrapyard.
That would be great.
That's not up to us.
No, but isn't it up to you, to some extent, to say all signs in the city now have to comply with the 660 feet?
That was done in 2006,
Well, why didn't they have to comply?
because it hasn't been moved.
Like grandfathered.
It's grandfathered.
It's grandfather. I wish you guys could just get rid of them.
A lot of things.
That's what's interesting to me in this situation, and that you're asking for a variance of something that's very out of compliance.
Yes.
That's more so but you can read where this says, if we're gonna alter it, then remove it. If it can't, I mean, that's to me what is the question here.
It's kind of a common thread in ordinances in general, that if something existed before the rule, it gets to stay. But if you want to change something, and it usually defines how far you can change things before it has to meet the ordinance now.
But isn't that why we're asking for a variance to begin with?
Yes, but what I'm saying is that the ordinance says that is not allowed. That's a specific thing that isn't allowed to be granted a variance. It says, under non-conforming uses in 401, it says, under no conditions shall the parcel be expanded and the use be expanded to a contiguous parcel, which is what has taken place here.
But it's not a contiguous parcel, it is a one parcel.
It wasn't in 2006.
Well, we can't go backwards no more than you guys can go backwards and make them
Correct.
be 660 feet.
And it's not an expansion of use. That's something I'm reading in this, right?
It is a change.
It's a change.
That's what I'm saying. This is not at all a simple thing.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I understand.
And we have to meet all 8 of these points. And we got through 5 of them pretty well. The last couple have an issue. So to some degree, there's a self-created You know, and the other thing that kind of sort of makes this a self-created situation is, if somebody else wanted to buy that and make it into a tattoo parlor, they might not have any problem with that sign being there at all. It's kind of a self-created situation because you have different plans than somebody else might have. You want to put up an additional story, you want to expand out, and those are to some degree discretionary decisions that you want to make more than that you have to make. They're sound business decisions, I get that.
Well, we have to make it if we want this to be
Successful.
successful, long-term, and we want to be, we want to do something that's great for the community, and I think that we have. And so,
I've been in your very position in this room on this kind of topic,
yeah.
so I know.
Could I, and just another comment, yeah, and you brought up an example, which would seem to make sense. Something's been agreed to based on the current zoning, and it makes sense, but you've done something that now you could see a person trying to take advantage of that, whereas you're not trying to take advantage of this. That's where I'm saying, I get sort of where this is going, and I don't see how it applies here.
Any other?
No, I'm still contemplating the things that you guys have already discussed. It suggests that, on one hand, that the code is so strict as to say to a new owner of a piece of property that they should have known something that would be beyond their ability to know before they began making decisions about a piece of property and its use, which to me goes back to the intent and purpose of the code. When we describe it, it's intended to assist the city in allowing businesses and economic activity, not to tell them that we're not going to allow that. So there, to my mind, yes, a pooling of 3 or 4, whatever pieces of property there were, so that this business could exist, seems to suggest that they're then not allowed to move this sign. But yet, without the ability to do this, then their ability to actually do what the intent is, improve the commercial structure of the city, is prohibited. And I don't think that's I don't think that's consistent with the intent and the very first one that we went through and just said it does meet that condition. I think they're, at least in this instance, at odds. You're telling these people they can't meet condition 1 because they can't meet a condition farther down that is in conflict. That's my sense. And I would suggest that, from my point of view, I would be more concerned with meeting the intent and the purpose of the billboard positions, rather than trying to find reasons not to meet that intent.
Right?
I thought you were going to say, and the intent of paragraph F. Again, I think paragraph F's more about trying to take advantage of a city zoning process by going and changing something that manipulates their property to then say, but I get to be able to change this, which is not the case. Anyway, it's a question of what F really is intended, which is in line with where you're going. I don't see where what's coming up here has to do with creating a worse situation for the city, or is really there trying to take advantage and manipulate what would be restricted by F.
Paragraph G speaks to there being no reasonable alternative location where such a location would eliminate the need for the variance or reduce the extent of the conditions necessitating that. We know that relocation would reduce the separation deficiency, but it wouldn't eliminate it. And it's not practical to eliminate it, given the size of the property. Any comments on that? I think there does need to be a recognition that if it stayed as it is, that there's no need for necessitating a variance at all.
But the condition here is like the 75 more years on some sort of lease to somebody that
It's
says.
forever.
It's a forever lease on this piece of property. That sounds like something that was created before this zoning intent was put together. That is nuts. Pardon my lack of proper definition. But yeah, what was the point of this forever thing on a billboard? That almost seems like something we should be able to bypass.
If you own the billboard, it's very apparent why they want it that way.
Mr. Chairman, can I offer some context to this condition, maybe? So the condition is intending to get at, is there a location on the property that would meet the separation requirements? That's probably something the applicant can answer for you. So is there a location on the property that would meet the 660-foot separation?
No, we don't own it far enough. We would be into the ship's property.
Right. There is no alternate location.
And not in the other direction either.
Yeah, no, we only own.
If they move it an inch from where it is now, it is less permissible than what they're proposing. The only equally permissible relocation is leaving it where it is, because then it's not really moved at all. It would, if they withdrew the second variance requirement, then they would remain in compliance as a non-conforming pre-existing structure.
And it's also a case where this is restricted to your property because that's where the perpetual lease is attached. Otherwise, this wouldn't be this problem.
Finally, that the requested variance is the minimum variance that would make possible the reasonable use of the land. I don't think there's a lot of debate on that particular point as far as spacing goes, because it is an increase in the spacing, although it's not in compliance. How far from the north property line toward the Milwaukee is this proposed to be?
15 feet. It
So-
could be farther. I wasn't exactly sure where their property line was. I know he's got a sign up there, so I measured from where his sign is about the parking, and I think that's really close to the property line, so I measured from that back, and where we wanted to put it was 15 feet.
So I think that we need to determine first whether we find their variance application meets all 8 of these points, or if there is reservation or hesitation about them, about any of this being applicable to this situation.
So we agree that G doesn't matter here. There is no. So it does meet G.
That could certainly be your vote.
Yeah, okay. Well, we haven't decided that yet. Okay?
Is there discussion on anybody having a particular issue with any of the 8 points?
Just to H, the requested variance is a minimum variance.
I'm still drawn back to F.
Yeah, I agree. That's the only one that seems to be an issue. I'm
That
just trying
there's
to
a,
understand
that there's a
H.
self-created condition, moving the sign as a voluntary
Minimum variance.
to desire. It is something that's requested because they have plans for the property that cannot both be met and satisfy the ordinance at the same time.
Can I speak to why we combine those properties a second?
Sure.
We combined them because consumers' energy sort of demanded it. Because we couldn't keep them separate. I'm just talking about, I remember going through this. We couldn't keep them separate because they would have required us to have 3 separate poles down there. So you would have had 3 telephone poles go down the line versus us combining the property at our expense and coming to you guys to just put one pole in. Because we were aesthetically trying to make this, I mean, if you got 3 poles going down the road, that's just, it's ridiculous, because they won't bury the line.
Right,
And so they said, well, the only way we can get around you guys doing this is to combine the property.
right,
So that we can build one place, you can have one pole, this is what you can do.
right.
And they're still giving us a little bit, consumers are still giving us a little bit of runaround about enough power down there with the
Sure.
one pole.
I understand your
Yeah.
position where I have a project, it took me 2 years to get 3-phase power in.
Yeah,
Because they just didn't want to do it.
So when you're talking about intent, it wasn't our intent to combine the properties to move a sign, because we had no idea we were gonna, I had no clue that Wandering was gonna be as successful as it has been. I'm really happy that it has been, and the city loves it, but we had no clue that we would be looking at, we got right onto this thing, or we're, got trouble. So, the intent was nothing to do with the sign.
Right. We still don't have to dot 8 I's.
I get it.
And I keep going back to F, which is that consolidating the properties and moving the sign to begin with is voluntary. That somebody else that was using the property for a different purpose might not even care or even notice that sign is there. Is my definition of self-created in that aspect legitimate? Or am I stretching a definition?
Well, obviously, the board is responsible for finding the facts, but I'll add some context to self-created. It's trying to flesh out variance requests that are based on conditions that are inherent in the land or something that's outside of the applicant's control.
Okay?
And I'm again inclined to think that the applicants have made an effort to consolidate some properties to build a business. Business is very consistent with the intent of the ordinance. If anyone would have been responsible for this, this particular section you're finding difficult, it would have been a previous owner who made decisions on a small piece of property to allow a lease that lasts forever. And that decision is not one you have control over. I'm inclined to think that this would not prevent me from voting that these 8 are met. But then we still have special use or special conditions to consider. But if that is not consistent with everyone else's thinking, we're at a point now where we probably need to take some actions to vote. And I think we would be calling the question on each of these basic conditions one by one to see what the will of the organization is. Now, if that requires someone to call that question, I would so call. That we vote on each of these basic conditions individually to see if we all agree that they're met.
In the form of a straw poll?
And we can do that as a straw poll. That's fine. That would allow us then to continue some serious discussion. I agree.
So you want them polled one by one?
Yeah, let us poll them one by one and see what the will of the
And the
4 votes
question's
are.
been called.
All right.
So basic condition 1, that the ordinance variance is not contrary to the public interest or intent and purpose of the ordinance. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? B, the requested variance shall not permit the establishment within a district of any use which is not permitted by right within that zone district, or any use or dimensional variance for which a special land use permit is required. We allowed to have any discussion right in this point or not?
Oh, absolutely, yep. The straw poll is just an informal poll, so you guys can kind of get an idea of where you're
So we
leaning.
do have to keep in mind that this use is not permitted by right in that district. A billboard is not allowed at all in the waterfront district.
And how many are in that
So
district?
those are pre-existing.
Yeah, but there's already how many?
And this particular billboard is pre-existing. It exists as a grandfathered billboard.
Yeah,
Then we have the question of whether or not moving it retains its classification as grandfathered once it's moved. And if they in fact come back with a change of the type of the billboard, the size of the billboard, anything of that nature, if we do get into a new situation of setback, I guess what we would be doing at a certain point would be a conditional approval subject to the review or recommendation of the zoning administrator on those types of items as to whether or not, once it is, in addition to the, I guess what I'm getting at is, in addition to the spacing issue, there's a whole gamut of issues that relate to use. Moving it to a property that it wasn't part of prior to the effective date of the zoning ordinance. And potentially some or all of the sign being in the setback. And the nature of the sign, its size, whether there's an effort made to change the character of the sign, things of that nature. So there's some issues in B that in my mind are going to prevent me from being able to give it a straight up or down without some kind of.
Well, then I'd refer you to the section that describes our duties and responsibilities and rules. And under rules, the board, that is us, may specify in writing such conditions regarding character, location, and other features that will, in its judgment, secure the objectives and purpose of this ordinance. And any breach of those conditions shall automatically invalidate any permitted use, or any permitted grant, any permit granted. In other words, we can say in granting the variance that it is,
Subject to further review of the zoning.
well, and within these certain specified conditions. That is one of our powers. We can do that.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for interrupting again. You certainly can. Another option for the board is to table the application pending the zoning administrator's determination as to the use status.
Because that unsettles me.
I'm just presenting that as an option to you.
Right. I mean, I realize you want to get on with plans. You also probably don't want to start tearing the roof off the building in the middle of tourist season either. But I do have concerns about use outside of this variance. But then again, they still have to come back for an actual application for the sign itself, correct? We would only be addressing the issue of the variance as it relates to the location and not the use,
Correct, yes. You can evaluate the variance application on its face.
okay? So then we can address the ordinance separation issue only, and for now, not have to deal with uses past, present, or future. E, I think, back to C, I think we've already kind of come to an agreement that there was no public input on this. Nobody's upset about it. There doesn't appear to be any kind of an adverse effect. D, the conditions are not so general that they should be controlled by another section of the ordinance, which we've agreed to that. The property is clearly under your control. There isn't an issue there. I appear to be in the minority on whether this is self-created. Although, again, in retrospect, looking at it purely from the standpoint of the separation, it is an improvement over the existing status quo, regardless of the use. G, that there's no reasonable alternative. This appears to be unless you've got a property stretcher, there isn't a way to do that, and H kind of ties into the same thing. So if we agree that those 8 are covered, not a foregone conclusion, but if we're leaning that direction, then either one of the following 2 have to be met as well.
Marty, there's 3 technically.
3 technical,
3 special conditions. These were the 2 that the applicant checked on the application
okay?
as meeting that. But these are the
Oh, okay, I see here now. So we have to agree that any one of the following 3 have to be met. Where there are practical difficulties which prevent full compliance, that the difficulties shall be evaluated in terms of the use of a particular parcel of land. And it lays out a couple things that says certain facts don't weigh or can contribute to that consideration. There are practical difficulties with prevent full compliance just because there isn't enough land to get you 660 feet away. So we may be able, if we were in agreement that the first 8 apply, we may be able to use that section as one of the 3 to get us over that hump. The second potential additional condition is that where there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or physical conditions, and again, this kind of fits in that box, and C, where the variation is necessary for the preservation of a substantial property right. That one I'm not sure applies, because nobody else in that district has the right to put up a billboard under the current zoning ordinance. So if we come to the conclusion that it does meet the first 8, and that either A or B of the following special conditions apply, we may be able to grant the variance on an interim basis, subject to some further review.
Well, an application to actually do the work.
Right.
We have not seen the application. So-
Right, so if there are clear conditions, like conditioned on the applicant entering into a new lease, that would be appropriate. An interim decision with a lot of flexibility that you may later change it, it's probably not, it's not advisable. It just leads to too much uncertainty. If there are outstanding items that the board wants additional information on, the best option is to table it.
I see a myriad of potential little side lanes here. You know, they're outside of the dimensional variance for separation. More in use situations. I'm concerned about the expansion of a non-conforming use to an adjacent piece of property, because there appears to be pretty much a prohibition on that in the ordinance. And it makes it pretty clear in a couple of places to me, to my reading. And I'd like to take Paul's read on it, but I have trouble with it.
Well, I think you've already told us this is now one parcel of land.
It is now.
It is. And we are now discussing the practical difficulties shall be evaluated in terms of the use of a particular parcel of land. That's pretty straightforward to me. I feel that we're not talking about what may constrict 3 or 4 separate pieces of property. We're talking about a parcel of land that is now this particular business. And I'm not sure that that I find anything that again would cause me to think that this isn't a reasonable variance if it meets the other conditions at the time that the work is done. The setback issues and all of the other things. And the only reason I say that is because they have not yet applied to do the work and haven't presented something for you to decide on as the administrator. Now, would that change if we were to table this and allow them the time to prepare with you their proposal so that you can evaluate it for its fitness for this?
I wouldn't be able to grant anything.
Right.
So it would just be
It would be a review and it would come back.
I could do a review, yeah.
But you would do a review at such point and provide us with a report of things that would, okay. And that's within your scope of authority, I think, as I read this.
Did you read section 401?
Section 401, go ahead. Oh, yeah.
To me, that's pretty much a prohibition. Because it specifies that the date of the ordinance as being in my mind, if I read that charitably, the billboard could be moved on the property as it existed at that time without violating the intent of that section. Moving it to the adjacent property that was added to the parcel in the last 2 years, to me, that gives me heartburn. If we're supposed to be following the ordinance, including that's intent to me.
And you see that the same way as the administrator?
I would look at it separately and provide a recommendation probably. This came forward before I started. I do want to express that also.
The
It's
only
been in the
reason
works.
I think I'm still discussing this at this point is we have the petitioner here who wants to understand what can and can't be done with that piece of property. And if this is overriding any of our decisions about variance, we need to understand and know that. And as the administrator, you would be at least in better position to give us that opinion at the time that you review it.
I do think it needs more review. This is far from being a simple, easy, open and shut kind of thing. I think getting rid of the setback is a big step forward. And I think there's a good case to be made that the separation distances have increased between billboards. But the relocating part of it is worrisome to me. And I think if we're going, I think without knowing what exactly is going to be moved, what the new thing is, that creating a variance for it to be there is to use your word, premature.
Yeah, and what I'm concerned to know is, although most of this section is referring to structures, and I understand that why that would be a prohibition, that a structure would be moved within a parcel and so on, because we've all had that kind of discussion.
Billboard is a structure.
Is it? It has its own separate section of the code and its own separate rules
As a use.
as a use. Yeah.
It's defined as anything on the ground.
Well, I understand that.
It's,
And yes, we do know that no matter what happens, that particular billboard would not be conforming, no matter what's agreed to.
right.
Because the only way to bring it into conformance would be for it to disappear or to stay exactly where it is, and we're back to this same dilemma that you're apparently faced with.
So I think that I, for one, need to see a little bit more from Lamar and what they would be replacing it with.
Exactly what's there.
That's what they told me.
That's what we were asking.
We don't know the orientation. There's some things we don't know.
Well, can you not, do this variance and, based on the fact that it would stay exactly the way it is? The orientation would stay the same, the sign size would stay the same.
I think you're right. We can, in fact, specify the specific things that have to be met before it would be allowed to happen.
The only reason you didn't apply for the permit is because that would be assuming, to me, I would be making the assumption that you would approve it. So I wouldn't apply for the permit before you gave the approval. For
Understood,
being
yeah.
able to move it. So I
Yeah.
thought it was following this sequentially what you would need me to do.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to err on the side of caution with council's advice to table it for them to review it.
I wouldn't oppose that at all. It just troubles me that a decision that was made to grant a extraordinary perpetual lease is now this person's burden. And I'm not sure how fair I feel that is, which is certainly one of the underlying things we're trying to accomplish, is some fairness. But yeah, you're right, we need probably a little better counsel on this, a little more review and understanding on whether or not this non-conforming structure issue is gonna bar them from making this move.
And could I dovetail, because that, you touched on a concern I have, and that's the notion of when the zoning ordinance becomes effective, there's a whole host of grandfathered property. Is there some administrative procedure about how that is dealt with? Because it would seem to me, if something does not fit current ordinance, the inclination would always be to correct it. In this case, would probably be remove it completely. But there's the whole situation we've all talked about. This is grandfathered in, it's an accepted piece of construction as it is. There's an interest to move it. Is there any procedures about how you deal with things that are grandfathered in, that are express what is best for the community, or how we should direct this towards the community? Because I'm just of a judgment, get rid of it or move it. There.
I suspect that that's the reason there's a zoning board of appeals.
Yeah, make a judgment.
So-
And there we are.
There is a stated section in the ordinance that basically, the essence of it is, billboards serve a limited public benefit. They can direct people to things, they can give information, they're of value to motorists to a certain point. A few is fine, one on every street corner, triple stack, double-sided blinking, maybe not so much. Because at a certain point, they're a distraction.
And at this point, that one doesn't comply with the intended
So-
positioning of.
So the ordinance itself, in 2006, limited the number of billboards to 10. By my count, we now have 15. So somehow, some of them creeped in. So to answer your question about what does the ordinance intend, what's the inference of the ordinance, et cetera, we're already past the point of what the ordinance considers to be, if the ordinance would infer that it would be in the city's interest for this to be gone. It's in excess of the limit.
Doesn't, yeah.
From Lamar's standpoint, that billboard ain't going anywhere unless it's replaced by similar, not even similar, better. From your standpoint, you want it gone too. So,
Love it.
oh, I know.
If we can't have it gone, moving it at least allows us to build our business. with
Understood.
no intent.
So we have several converging issues here.
One other that hasn't been discussed is that the movement down towards the Milwaukee. I mean, the whole point of that boat and that display, that sort of museum piece, is you see it. I just wonder what happens when suddenly they have a massive billboard down in front that isn't about their establishment.
No, they're fine with it.
They've said they're fine with it.
I can get Robbie, we can get Robbie to come in here, because we talked about trying to move it onto his property, me doing a donation of some sort to buy a chunk of his property to actually get it to 660 feet. But if we did that, then you're getting too close to those condos. You guys are you're really messed up here with the 660 feet, because if you really get it 660 feet, you're getting so close to those condos that the condo owners aren't gonna want that.
Right.
So we tried to get it as far away into close to 660. We were hoping we could get to 660. Come to you guys and say, okay, now we're making it compliant, because that would have made it easier on the day for you.
How do we want to address this, gentlemen?
Mr. Chair, can I add something?
Absolutely.
Prior to Maddie, let me introduce myself. I'm the building official and community development director. I took the original application, and I want to address a couple things that didn't come up tonight that just popped in my head that may be relevant. One is I checked with the state of Michigan MDOT when this request came in to ask if they determine their distance, they have a distance as well, is it on the same side of the street or adjacent to? Ours is, we measure from the closest billboard on either side of the road. They do not. If this billboard is granted the move, they will permit it. That's what the lady at MDOT told me on the phone. Whether that's relevant to you folks or not, I just remembered I didn't share that with anybody. The other question I asked her was exactly what the chairman's struggling with. If it's moved, is it a new sign or an existing sign? That was the very first place that I went with this in my brain. And she said, we don't care. We're going to write a new permit if you allow this structure to be moved. If it's a new structure, if it's the same structure, irrelevant to that.
So their position was, we need to make that determination locally.
You need to decide if you're going to allow it to be moved. They're going to issue a permit for it if it is moved. So she didn't really care one way or the other if it was a new or a different or a same or.
Do we know when that sign was put up? Has anybody heard that number?
Would have been, it was when Little Caesars was there, so I think Little Caesars was out.
Remember the date,
Because the easement is dated 2006,
and I think that's,
but I'm not clear if they created the easement 20 years after the sign was built.
No, it was created for that sign.
for that sign, yes.
So
If
I
it
was
was-
gonna say 2004, but it might be 2006.
Because the easement has a date on it of, you might want to make a note of this. The date on the easement is September of 2006. The ordinance was effective February of 2006. So it is,
So hold on.
yes, that's what I just said. I'm not going to editorialize.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
file that away.
Yep.
So I don't know if you've,
February of 2006, so actually. Yeah. Thank you, God. Thank you, sir, for those numbers.
Yeah, and then the other thing I'm noticing is we've got within the definitions, non-conforming building structures, non-conforming uses, setbacks, a specific paragraph on signs, and then another specific paragraph on structures.
it's not, billboards were removed from the definition of signs specifically.
In the 2006 ordinance, they removed the
This-
special
okay,
use.
all right, that's good to know.
So again, I am not comfortable with all this exactly without some more review.
Yeah.
I think we need to turn the wizards loose on it. If they bring it back to us, if it goes to the planning commission, whatever happens, happens. Scrappers show up and take it in the middle of the night.
So a motion to table is in order, and I would make that.
Sorry to interrupt again. I would suggest tabling it to a date certain if possible, or to a meeting to be held within 30 days.
Is
Would you like
that
to modify
consistent-
your motion?
Is that consistent with your needs as the administrator?
Yeah, I would do within 30 days, and then we can review
Okay.
if the planning
So
commission
amended.
wants to review.
Friendly amendment.
Could I offer just one other, the idea, and that is, I think I've heard you guys reference, this could be, generate to the point that the council needs to look at this. Get some feedback from a greater body and for this, that represents the whole city. The point you just bring up about the billboards, having grown from wherever they are now, you know, from maybe where they first met the ordinance, this does seem a bit out of control. And we're trying to control it, but it seems like we feel kind of hogtied by situation and written rule when we're very far a bit out of compliance at all with what the city intended with the ordinance. And now we're addressing some significant investment that, I'm just curious, if the better alternative is no, you should just remove the billboard completely, move it out of the city. I mean, it's just thought.
That's not our choice.
That's not our choice. I'm wondering if we also say, council, do you want to address this?
I'm not sure that it's a council issue.
I
I think it
don't
would
think
be a
they
planning and
can't
zoning
have
board.
that choice either. So if the question to remove the billboard,
To remove it. If it's out of compliance, and if the ordinance was put in, the ordinance was put in February of '26, and the easement was established in September of 2006, then if they didn't get a special use permit, and they didn't get a.
There's no
permit,
such thing allowed in that district.
There's no such thing allowed.
So
in
the
district.
way the-
Should make a move it.
the ordinance reads would allude to maybe that the easement was put in place after the billboard was constructed. So
That's something, that's why I asked the question about how old is the billboard, because I don't know.
So the way that the ordinance was amended in 2007 to include a list of billboards as existed in February of 2006, which was the 10 billboards on 31.
But it does not cite their locations. It says on US 31.
So is that sign one of them?
Most likely.
It's not in the record.
It,
would be.
I would assume, based on my count, that every existing billboard by Lamar is one of those 10
So I'm
billboards.
sure that you, Mr. Compton, have exhausted any way that you guys could get billboards that are non-compliant and you don't want them in the waterfront district. Has the city exhausted their way of getting rid of those?
I don't think it's even been addressed. I don't think until very recently, until this came up, that it's really been looked at. I think everything's,
It's terrible. We
it-
put a lot of money, over $2 million into that property.
I feel for it.
Yes, you did. Exactly. That's why we're struggling so long and hard on this.
They're money pits. I got a few of my own.
Yeah.
So, but until this particular issue came up, those signs have all been there. I mean, if they had come in today and wanted to put up a new one where there wasn't one already, they'd be told no. I think the ones, the signs that have been there long enough that nobody has gone back to second guess or relook or double check to see, was there ever a building permit pulled for it? Was it built after the ordinance? It's the list of the 8 Lamar billboards that are on US 31. Is there such a list? That's why I asked if you knew how long it had been there.
How do we,
I don't know. That's why I asked.
okay. Well, I'm asking you, how do we,
The billboard may have been built before the easement was written also.
But those would
That
be
would
part
be
of the just legalities of the whole debate, or the real details. But I don't think anybody here would deny the fact that the city's not getting what they want with all those billboards.
Well, this was written after those were placed,
Yes.
strategically, knowing that most were closer together than that.
And with
Well, some were there. You've brought the fact more have shown up.
There are-
Somehow.
So
There are roughly 15
the
now.
10 Lamar large traditional billboards are what are quoted in this.
9.
It says no.
9?
Yeah.
Okay, 9 with whatever faces. The ones Marty's referring to are the sort of wooden billboards. Mm-hmm.
Three of them have state numbers on them,
Which indicates they've been.
that they're on the state registry.
Yeah, which puts some more
Which
billboards.
that gets you to 12 or 13.
And the
And then
best
there
I
are-
can find there, I guess, if the state has record of when those were put up, is in Google Maps. It takes you back to 2008, and those are there as well. So I would,
That's just my point, is that there's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah.
And I don't have all the answers, and I don't necessarily want to charge full on into this without knowing the
Well,
answer.
yeah, and if we're going to table it to a date specific, we should probably,
Call for your question?
well, I'm about to suggest that, but I see that 30 days from today is Memorial Day, and we won't be meeting that date.
So it would be
So
before that.
we could say
Within.
at a date specific in May as set by the administrator, when she can,
Within 30 days,
within
to be
30 days.
determined.
yeah, because she will be probably asked individually by one or more of us for additional information that may take some time for her to research.
So restate your motion.
That we table this application, I think is what it's called now, to within 30 days, a date to be specified by the building administrator.
Zoning administrator.
Zoning, excuse me, zoning administrator. You're both though, aren't you?
no, Jerry is the building.
Jerry's building
Okay.
back over there.
All good.
May 18th,
What's supposed to happen between now and then?
I will,
It can be, you can get in touch with us and
Draft
find,
a-
make sure everybody's available and.
well, if you want to set a date today,
This just a continued discussion?
don't
Or
know.
gather, should there be more
Take it off
information?
the table and have our, hopefully a decision. We should be able to make one by then.
My understanding is you want the zoning administrator to make a determination as to the use status of the existing billboard and a proposed relocation.
Correct. That's my concern, is use.
Okay, all right.
And we'll table variance until we know use.
And we apologize
We know
for
that.
being here but it's going to take that long. All right.
I mean, we have
So-
a hard time determining variance before we know what the specific use is.
Well, so moved. Is there a second, I guess?
Or,
Any more conversation? All in favor? Do we need a roll call? Just a,
might as well.
Board Member Johnson,
yes,
Board Member Dilworth,
Yes.
Vice Chair Dufresne,
Yes?
and Chair Spalding.
yes. Okay, next on our agenda. Wherever I buried that.
Mine went blank, so I wish I could help.
I think we're in a public comment zone. Are there any public comments on anything not on the agenda from everybody not here? Staff reports.
Well, Jerry just walked out right before I was about to go through our new breakdown in the department. But for those I haven't met until today, my name is Maddie. I started with the city back exactly 6 months ago today. The day that this application came in for the variance was October 27th. This is Jackie. She's our administrative assistant in the office. And then Jerry has taken over the community development director title from Teresa. And he's also serving as the building official. And so I do the planning and zoning. He does the building. We work together on big stuff like this. But if you ever need anything, one of the three of us are always available, and maybe we'll meet twice this year. We're already meeting twice this year. Maybe we'll meet 3 times.
Record breaker.
So this was about staff. You guys are staff,
Yes.
and we are board. And I'd just like to make a statement. I've been to one board meeting, and I was an alternate. And I didn't know I was actually a board member, but that's fine. So I
didn't
walk
get out-
into this going,
You didn't
oh,
get out of the way fast enough.
So we We have a vacancy right now, so as long as, or in the case Shelley's not here, so we just can't have a board of 6.
Okay, so I'm filling a vacancy
Yeah, and
for the meeting's purpose. Okay.
at any point someone's gone or we have a vacancy, as we do now, an alternate can sit on the regular
You're a
board.
floater.
Then that's what I'm doing at the moment. Okay, I was gonna say, I didn't know I was on the board itself, but, okay, good enough. Thank you. Just had to state it sooner or later where I was at.
Anybody else over there have any discussion from the members?
I have another question. I would like to just talk a little bit more about this, about alternatives that are possible, that might be helpful. Can we do that informally, or is this always supposed to be like open, in a public forum?
Has to be in a public forum by
Yes.
law.
Yeah, okay.
It's called the Open Meetings Act.
So, yes, all right, and I'm aware of that, and I was just curious. So, the alternative of the city deciding that maybe because they begged the question with their request, there needs to be better action taken about the management of billboards at all in the city. I mean, if the city intends to do what I think the ordinance is about, which is, encourage development, encourage, what this town is probably going to be built on, which is tourism, that this situation, we make an action here that could sort of further cement something that the city, we don't even want, which is that many formal billboards along that road in town.
And I think you're correct. In fact, we're charged with not having that authority or power. We can't alter the sum and substance of the zoning. We can only make some variances. And
We can make
very-
recommendations
And make some
to the
recommendations,
planning
but-
commission or
No.
staff, because we've done that before in regards to
We
the
have.
definition of a hotel and.
Yep.
Which means that this decisioning here, if it were to be about some things need to be eliminated, or should they be before we agree to this, that's beyond our charge as a variance board.
Yeah. We're the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah.
And we're, to some degree, bound by the four walls of the
Yeah.
zoning ordinance.
Yes.
We're given some latitude about making some decisions that are in fairness and make reasonable sense. But no, if there's a need for a change in the actual ordinance, that belongs to the planning and zoning board.
Or to take other action beyond what a variance would be to a zoning. Okay.
Our role is primarily interpretive of definition and actions.
And I appreciate that, so just the way you were saying.
When staff does something and somebody aggrieved comes to us and says they disagree with how they viewed that phrase, it's up to us to decide,
Yeah.
to some degree, is what we were doing today.
And in retrospect, the fact that we only meet very infrequently suggests that the system and the ordinances are working well. People understand what has to happen, what they need to do, and can navigate that without a lot of conflict. I do feel that folks who have a piece of property and are well on their way to doing something with it and have a business and all the rest of that, may not be well treated by decisions that happened before the ordinances may have been altered or by other property owners. But I'm not sure from the things that you've kind of shown us that you're focusing on that we have the latitude.
Yeah. Other question, like the sign itself that's sitting there, I'd like to know exactly when that was constructed. If it was constructed after 2006 or prior. As if it was after 2006, if the ordinance was in
Probably
effect.
needs to come down.
Well, what probably happened, back when I was on planning back in the 80s and early 90s,
Then it's your fault.
we had a zoning administrator, building inspector, who said, oh, that'll be okay, we can do that. Never, well, it wasn't until I was on the board that we were doing site plan reviews. And before that, it was, oh, yeah, that's close enough. And in the back of my mind, I'm almost willing to bet if that went up after that ordinance went into effect, and if Jerry was still in office down there, he did one of his, oh, that's okay, that won't matter. I'm almost willing to bet that could have happened, but I can't say for sure.
Can we get a review of,
It was approved by the building inspector at that time, so it was
was
approved.
it, though, is the question. What, can we find out whether or not, A, the ordinance from 1999 required a building permit for a billboard,
It did for signs. You needed a sign permit.
was considered a
It
sign
was
at
a
that
sign
time?
at that time.
So can we determine whether or not a building permit was in fact pulled for it?
I can look if we have the
I mean,
records of
you may
it.
not be able to determine definitively whether or not there was one. The records may not exist. But if the records are good, and if there was no sign permit or construction permit ever pulled for that thing, and it's indeterminable when exactly it was put up, I mean, granted, it's 20 years after the date, but perhaps, I mean, everything that I read in the ordinance refers to legal, non-conforming signs. If it's not legal, whether it's non-conforming or not, is kind of a moot point. Because if it was put up illegally, I don't know that there's a statute of limitations on something like that, is there?
Well, the issue would be whether we have standing to take exception to the mistake, or whether that's, the standing lies with the current property owner. And that would be one for some legal advice to review.
And I can see being Lamar, like the situation we had looked at back in December, where we were talking about those signs, the lighted sign over
lighted
here.
sign.
They were willing to take the city to court.
Oh, sure.
So they'd be willing to fight it anyway.
There's a,
Assume that they have some concern about that. What do they bill about $2 billion a year in advertising and make a profit of $500 million on that? They're not gonna be real.
they're
wild
not
about losing-
afraid.
Yeah, they're not gonna be real wild about losing a piece of property, but if it was improperly done, the person who has standing to complain about that could bring such an action.
Right. I'm not saying that's the city.
We don't know
saying-
who that is, because I don't know who, we don't know the underlying facts yet at this point.
I'm just saying, as part of your review, can you look for that? Just to see if it is legally non-conforming.
Wouldn't be imprudent to have someone from legal to take a look at that very theory, if you will, because it could come back from some people who just left.
The city didn't have jurisdiction over building permits at that time.
Was it the county?
State of Michigan,
Ah,
They have records
if we could
way back.
FOIA the proper terms, we may be able to.
You'd have, I don't know if you'd have to FOIA the state for a building record in your jurisdiction, do you?
yeah, but it would be a.
They would know. I mean, that would be a pretty demonstrable set of facts right there.
Yeah, essentially, I need a permit number or a builder's name to get a record in the state of Michigan.
Not a property owner name?
And did I understand again, you're standing here for whom?
I'm the building official for the city.
You're the building official. Well, there we go. Then you do have standing to go and look at those things. Have at it.
I've tried to get records from the state. If you don't have a permit number or a builder's identification or name,
What about asking Lamar? for
Yeah,
that?
just thinking.
Well, I would
Lamar.
suggest that if you said to Lamar, oh, by the way, we need the permit
Yes.
for it to make this decision, they're probably not gonna be real happy to do that.
No.
But if they don't provide it, then can't you state, and then now you're getting into litigation, but then
Exactly,
there,
and
none
that's-
exists.
we will gather whatever records we have from the report.
And it wasn't Lamar that put it up.
No, probably not.
It was,
But there should be some reference to the piece of property itself that has been,
it was TLC Properties, a Louisiana corporation.
that's basically Lamar. Lamar's a Louisiana corporation.
Okay?
That's their subsidiary.
TLC, the Lamar
Company,
Corporation.
yeah.
No,
I didn't look at it that way.
yeah, they're.
But I think it would be not improper for us to ask them to justify that they constructed it. When did you construct it, and with what permit.
But if there's an easement or some long-term granting of right, there should be documents that underlie that. And even if we have to ask Little Caesars or whoever it was that was there earlier, there should be some record, I think.
And I'm just thinking, as a city changes,
Well, yeah.
the city gets different leverage, so to speak, of what can continue to exist. Maybe it was fine 20, 30 years ago and no longer applies.
Well, and we're obviously, as a city, very concerned about that whole stretch of waterfront because it is a key asset to the city and it's going to underlie a lot of things that can happen in the city.
My little anecdote, when I drove through this town the first time ever, which was about 12 years ago, we came from the north. And my first impression of this town was, what a dump. And I did not appreciate the town at all till I started looking more seriously for a place to move, to buy property and move to. And and as the cities and the states investing in that road, that is such a good effort for this town to beautify that whole way in from the north. And the fact that those billboards now sit like they do is gonna look even weirder in the future. I mean, something's gonna, I think it needs addressing. That's, I guess, what I'm getting at. It seems like it's bigger than the board, zoning variance as to what's gone on with those billboards.
So the city
And
has,
that sign is going to have to put a lot longer pole on it because if you use the pole that's on right now, the top of the sign won't get above the edge of the curb.
Oh, depending, because it's on that hill.
It's on the bottom of the
It's
hill.
supposed to be on the bottom of the hill?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if the Milwaukee people understand how that could affect, you know.
One other consideration too, in addition to checking for a building permit and or any kind of a zoning application from that time period to fix whether or not it's a legal non-conforming sign. The other thing that comes to my mind would be to try to find if there is a specific list of what those 9 billboards are they were talking about.
I've
Is that-
tried.
That's all of it? And
so what
and
went, okay,
the
sorry.
other thing that I just popping into my mind now, has there been any annexation, have there been any changes in the city's boundary since 2006 where they could be counting a sign that was in a different direction? Has the city annexed, I guess is my point, since 2006? Did they count something in Filer or Manistee Township as a sign and that one didn't exist, you know?
and the only annexation the city has had that, my recollection, I'm not sure of the date, is south of the golf course, south of 12th Street and west of Cherry. That's the only thing that was been annexed
Yeah.
out of Filer Township.
Because that could affect that tally too. But if there's no specific number list anywhere, you know, there's just a number of things that come into play here that,
I would suggest we adjourn. We put a lot of things on the record.
Yep.
Because this is all being recorded, which means you've got a ton of work to, I don't know how you store that. You just keep the recording?
Yeah. We'll have minutes, but most just action items for the most part will make it.
And so I'd move we adjourn.
Support?
discussion? Agreed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Another wonderful meeting, gentlemen.
Two. We didn't drift too much.